The Revolution Podcast, Episode 13. Feedback for The Children's Crusade.
Hi, you're listening to Revolution Podcast. This is Maria Howell as Grace on Revolution.
Golden Spiral Media presents The Revolution Podcast. Support for The Revolution Podcast is provided by listeners like you and Think Geek. Charm the geeks in your life by giving them geeky goods from Think Geek. Think Geek has fun stuff for every Trekkie, Jedi, Whovian, Browncoat, Cortexiphan, and so much more. Bacon. Visit goldenspiralmedia.com/Think Geek today. Welcome back to the Revolution Podcast, everybody. We're coming at you live from the supermarket aisle filled with bacon and Hot Pockets.
Bacon.
And Hot Pockets.
And I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Daryl.
All right.
How you doing, Jeremy?
I'm doing well.
I left it wide open there for you.
I was trying to segue. We needed some bacon there, though, so
Yeah.
I'll let you take that one away.
Jim Gaffigan, by the way, is my inspiration for that intro. I can't think of bacon without thinking of Jim Gaffigan's wonderful bacon stand-up bit. If you haven't seen it, go over to YouTube. Pause the podcast even. It's that good. Listen to Jim Gaffigan talk about bacon. Listen to him talk about Hot Pockets. Listen to him talk about McDonald's. Everything food-related. The guy's hilarious. I love Jim Gaffigan.
So can I pause the podcast and
Well, not you.
go listen to it? Oh, well.
Not you.
All right,
No.
I'm just checking.
You're stuck with me. Because we're doing this live. We're doing it live. You're stuck with me. So anyway, thanks for joining us for this episode of the Revolution Podcast as we are taking the fan feedback that we received for episode 7 of Revolution entitled The Children's Crusade. And thanks ahead of time to everybody who sent in feedback. And, we had the election going on this week.
Yeah.
And I think that still has a lot of people's focus today. So in spite of that, we got some great feedback in this week.
We did, and we got a lot more than I thought we were going to get, to tell you the truth.
And that's the other thing, too, because we do this podcast on Tuesday. A lot of folks don't have time to get feedback in before the show. And so we don't get as much because of that. But we did get some really good feedback in. Really excited to play it for you guys. So why don't we just get things started with Cory in Australia. We have a very international blend of feedback coming your way tonight. So we're going to get it kicked off with Cory.
Hi Daryl and Jeremy, this is Cory from Australia. I've fired up my pendant and decided to send you guys some feedback for Revolution's new episode of The Children's Crusade. In my opinion, best episode yet. Such a compelling story this week with the children. Very well acted. I mean, the main kid, I think his name was Michael, was just, that was just good casting right there. Then furthering the story to the boat where the militia takes children and brainwashes them and makes them soldiers. That was just great stuff. I mean, I really thought it was interesting that Miles called it a conscription facility. He didn't use the word draft like you would for an army. Conscription has a much harsher, more forceful tone to it, so... Yeah, and then, as we saw later, when he was sort of letting the boy go, and then he just beats him down, it was so brutal. I'm so glad that the show isn't holding back on stuff like that, just really showing you how brutal the militia is, and they don't do that so well in the world as it is, but, a lot of the time they don't shy away, so that's always a good thing. Rachel is something that's been very interesting. I mean, she was a big part of the flashback this week. We got to see who Randall was. It seems that Randall used the problems with her pregnancy with Danny to sort of get what he wants to, I guess, get the power to turn off the power. And now the same thing is happening with the militia. They're using Danny against her. It seems that even though she has the best intentions, she just keeps digging that hole. It just keeps getting dug deeper and deeper and deeper. So, very, very good stuff. I cannot wait to see more of this show. And I really can't wait to hear more of the Revolution podcast. Keep up the great work, guys. Until next time, we'll see you later. Cheers.
All right. Thanks, Cory.
Thank you very much. And I'm glad he agrees with me that that was a really good episode.
He said best yet.
I know, and he's right.
Oh, well. Says you.
Hey,
No, it was a good episode. I'm not going to argue on if he thinks it's the best one, good for him.
good for him.
He's
Wow.
wrong, but I mean, good for him.
He's
It's
right.
one of the best
Okay.
of the 7 that we've received so far.
All right.
Yeah.
They're all pretty good.
Yeah, they are.
So.
What else did you think about what he had to say there?
Oh, well, he mentioned the brainwashing
Yeah, I did.
on the boat. And I agree. I like that he used the term conscription.
Yeah.
It's definitely a far more harsh tone. It reminds me of Russia in World War II,
Okay.
where they weren't necessarily drafted as much as imprisoned, given a gun or bullets,
Uh-huh.
and the guy who died lost it, and the other guy picked it up and used it. So
Right.
it's very harsh tone. I agree about what he said there.
Yeah,
so.
it seems to be what's going on for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to think about. Them literally dragging children away and forcing them to join this military. And then the sergeant, he says, this is your lucky day. This is a great day. We've got you into the militia, and Monroe has done this, and he has brought order to the better than the United States and that corrupt government, or whatever he said in that spiel. And I'm just like, man, he is drinking the Kool-Aid. I mean,
Yeah.
how can you, I don't know, how can you drag kids out of their homes and then think that what you're doing and the guy you're serving is wonderful?
Play Halo to have that answered.
Oh, Halo 4, which came out tonight that you're not getting to play?
Yes. It's a new podcast. I have to mention it again.
I see.
There you go.
But no, I mean, that kind of gives us an idea of the brainwashing that's going on at all
Okay.
levels.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's a what's the term? Not necessarily indoctrination.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you're going to be able to indoctrinate a 22-year-old woman with those tactics.
I wouldn't think so.
I'm kind of surprised that they'd even try. So
Yeah, but you don't want to get them too young either, because you don't want to have to babysit,
true.
and they're not really useful for you in fighting yet.
It's a
If they're
fair
too
point,
young.
yeah.
I mean, like for example, when the kids came up with knives on sticks and acted like they were gonna, overtake
Yeah.
Miles and Charlie, they had
Right.
no chance.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, maybe the kid standing on the side of the roof with a bow and arrow, he could do some damage, but the kid with the knife on a stick
Yeah.
wasn't going to do anything.
yeah, they were just a bunch of hairless Ewoks. So.
That's right, here, the Ewoks. No, he also mentioned though that Rachel has the best intentions, but just keeps digging a deeper hole.
Yeah.
I think he's right. Like I mentioned in the last podcast, something isn't really sitting well with me with Rachel, and I can't quite put my finger on it yet.
Yeah.
But it does seem like she has good intentions, but they're just not working for the best. I mean, they're getting people in trouble.
Indeed.
Yeah. All right.
I'll give you that word.
All right. Let's move on to our second feedback for the night. And this one comes in from Jess.
Hey, Daryl and Jeremy, this is Jess in Atlanta, and I just wanted to send in a quick voice memo. Unfortunately, based on my own viewing habits and schedules, I'm always going to be an episode behind from when you guys are recording, because obviously I don't watch on Mondays, and I can't get it in before you guys start recording on Tuesday nights. So this is actually for Sex and Drugs. And I just wanted to call in and say that my new favorite character is now Aaron. I just think everything they've done with his character development is amazing. Also, Charlie still kind of annoys me, so I'm not really quite on board with her 100%. I'm still kind of annoyed by her. And then lastly, I know you guys didn't use this as one of your quotes, but I thought it was hysterical when Aaron was talking about the part where he's like, I don't know how many bullets this psycho put in this gun, and then he goes to start shooting people. Anyway, I thought that one was an amusing quote nonetheless. So that's my quick feedback. Thanks for the podcast. You guys are great.
All right. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you, Jess.
That was a good quote.
It was. Yeah.
I think we've got some other feedback that's talking about that same scene.
Really?
But
Okay.
yeah, I mean, And Aaron is getting all the best lines. I mean, he's getting the really, the witty one-liners. He's
Yeah.
delivering them well.
Well, I think she's going to like this episode.
I'm
quite a
glad
bit,
you brought that up.
so-
She's clearly calling about sex and drugs, and she said that. And I think if she liked Aaron after that episode, she must
Yeah.
like him even more after this one.
I agree. And I hope that she calls us again and lets us know what she thinks of this one next week. So
It was funny to me when I was listening, going back and listening to our podcast last week. I think it was for the first one that we did for our episode review.
okay.
I said in our intro, I said, and tonight we're doing sex and drugs. And when I said it, I didn't mean anything by it other than we're talking about sex and drugs. But I think I said we're doing sex and drugs tonight.
I'm glad I didn't catch that.
I'm like, sometimes I say the dumbest things. Usually,
every day.
I'll usually have something in every podcast where I'm like, really, that's the best you could offer? But anyway, so it's okay. I wanted to say too, Jess, it's okay that you're an episode behind and sending feedback in. We recognize that we're doing the podcast the very next day after the episode is aired, and it's difficult for a lot of people to get feedback in that type of turnaround. So we're going to try to include some feedback for the previous week's episode if we get something that's good and well constructed, and yours was. So
yeah.
Feel free to send it in, and if we have room for it, and like I said, it's well constructed, we'll look at putting that in the show.
Yeah, we definitely welcome that from any of our listeners as well. So
she also said that Charlie was still annoying. Are you feeling less annoyed by Charlie? How are you on the Charlie annoying scale?
As far as it goes, I think I'm on the bandwagon that just likes to make fun of her, but I like her. So as much as I might like to complain about her, I like her well enough.
Yeah. She never really has annoyed me like she has some other viewers of the show.
Yeah.
I can see why she might be annoying to some people, but I never have really found her that bad of a character. But I doubt that after watching the Children's Crusade, Jess's opinion of Charlie will have changed much. Since, like we mentioned already, that she had a very similar type of role in this episode.
I think she'll enjoy a few fist
watching
usages.
Charlie get punched in the face a couple of times, find it very satisfying.
Yeah.
Maybe so. All right, let's listen to Kim in Nevada.
Hello, Daryl and Jeremy. This is Kim from Las Vegas, leaving some feedback for the Revolution podcast. We all know that Charlie likes to often set herself up as bait in order to do something, just like she did in this episode when she snuck into the militia recruit boat. Well, I think she has even more incentive to continue to infiltrate, because now she has a militia symbol on her arm, and if that's not an obvious tell that somewhere soon she's going to make her way into the militia, especially if she keeps the uniform, it's just a big indicator. Pretty much. And, geez, Aaron, why can't you seem to not lose a pendant? And why do people keep finding it and seeing it? This kid saw it and he just gets it back. I'm like, good lord, man. He's not very good at hiding it, even though it doesn't look like he would have been able to hide it when all the power turned on in the lighthouse. So, I'll give him that one. That part wasn't his fault. And, just like Aaron, if the world lost power today, I'd be out of a job too, because I'm an IT technician. However, I made sure I took MMA, so I'm not leaving my spouse anywhere. I'm beating some people down and getting some food, and then me and my spouse would survive. But that's probably me just being a nerd because I own swords. Anyway, nerds, take MMA before it's too late and the revolution tries to come and get you.
That's awesome.
Right.
Yeah, that was excellent, Kim. So, very wise, taking MMA, even though there's some geekiness involved there, and swords. I'm going to go move to Las Vegas so I can be with Kim when the power goes out.
Yeah. So, MMA sounds a little violent for me. I'll stick with the karate or something.
Or your dolls.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's mixed martial arts, but they actually hit each other.
I'm pretty sure if you're in a situation like we see on Revolution, hitting each other might be a useful skill.
But I'd like to learn how to wax a car and just employ that tactic.
I see.
When it just naturally
paint the
has to happen.
fence, wax the car, sweep the floor.
Exactly. So I think I'm covered. Wax on. But,
I don't know about that.
yeah.
She had some of the same comments that you and I did
Yeah.
about Charlie being bait,
Right.
about the militia symbol getting her entrance into something very soon.
Yeah, and she definitely agrees with you about Aaron. Probably, well, I assume she agrees that Aaron's probably the worst pendant keeper ever.
Yeah. And Zeppelin Driver in the chat says that Aaron is a doofus. He's only, and I'm pretty sure this is what you mean, but he's only a doofus in terms of he's not very smooth, he's just kind of clumsy and I mean he's very smart, obviously with his tech background, but
book smart at least.
Oh, we've got a presidential update, presidential election update here. CNN is calling Pennsylvania for Monroe. Thank you for that update, Zeppelin Driver.
All right.
Speaking of, I gotta look this up. I'll look this up while we're going through one of these emails here or something. But there is a Twitterer out there that's like the fake Aaron, and it is the funniest stuff you've ever heard.
Really?
And one of the tweets was Monroe was holding an election, and he was going up against a very outdated cup of pudding. I'll look that up before we get out of here tonight.
All right.
Guys, you will find that hilarious if you're on Twitter. Anything else there you want to talk about from Kim?
I think we're good.
I think we've got
Thank
it
you,
as
Kim,
well.
for that.
All right, get your cups full of whatever you prefer to drink. Drinking game time. It's Mark from Ontario, and the drinking game goes every time he says a boot. Take a swig. I'm drinking water tonight. See how that goes. Let's see, number 4.
Hey Jeremy, Daryl, and the rest of the revolutionaries. Mark from Ontario, Canada here. Here are my bullet point comments for this week's episode. I'm very disappointed after last week's ending that all we got to see of Danny and Rachel was a 20-second clip that really didn't do anything. Kids living on their own for 7 to 8 years, according to Nora? How could that many kids be supporting themselves, food and supply-wise? I didn't see enough mature ones to care for all the younger ones. And how could they not know what the militia is? I think I'm going to start calling Miles Mr. Impossible. Last week, he infiltrated Bill's office after Drexel said it couldn't be done. This week, he storms the boat after he himself said it was impossible. What miracle will he pull off next week? In the flashback of Bill's demo for Randall, what type of room was Randall and all that equipment in? Power stayed on outside the room. Could the opposite work and there be pockets of similarly shielded rooms across the planet where power works within without the help of an amulet? Speaking of the amulet, it has a much wider range than I thought. Aaron was in the basement of the lighthouse and the light at the top came on. I'd guess that's about 100 feet away. Aaron redeemed himself for me this week. I was disappointed in him last week, but he quickly became my favorite character again this week. We could probably have a full quote of the week poll just with the things he said alone in this episode. He even helped us out by making the hairy Ewok jab so that we didn't have to make the Star Wars reference ourselves. He defeated 2 militiamen and stood up to Miles at the end. Good for you, Aaron. You're growing up. Finally, I want to throw a theory out there. I think Tom Neville is a spy infiltrating Monroe's camp. His wife is probably involved as well. I've been contemplating this for a few episodes now. When we saw his backstory, we saw how meek he was and how he fought back to save his family. I think he's doing the same thing here, but on a much grander scale by secretly fighting back against Monroe's Republic. He goes overboard, acting mean and tough so that nobody will question his loyalty. He has no problem beating up his own men or poisoning them to help them die because he secretly doesn't like them. When promoted, he didn't answer Bass as to what he thought about the promotion. When he met Miles, he was very curious as to what caused Miles to turn on Monroe. He fought him because he had no choice, but I think he was secretly trying to figure out how to use Miles against the militia. Jason wouldn't know his father is a spy because it was too dangerous for Tom to confide in him when he was younger, and now Tom doesn't know how Jason will react if he did tell him. That's why Tom is so hard on him. It wouldn't look good for his cover if he tried to stop Jason from being in the militia, so instead he's trying to make the militia life hard for Jason so that he doesn't get too entrenched in it. As for who Tom is spying for, I don't think it's the resistance. He too easily disposed of the rebel deer hunter a few weeks ago. It could be one of the neighboring governments that are ganging up against Monroe, but I'm going to bet that he's secretly working for Randall. I think we'll see some hints of this when Monroe finally gets his hand on a pendant. Anyway, that's it for me this week. Keep up the good work.
All right, good stuff.
Interesting theory.
What do you think about the theory?
I would diverge from that theory, but it's definitely plausible.
Yeah.
So
That's right classified as well.
Yeah. I know last week I was touting, maybe he's going to turn good, but now it's
so dark this week.
Yeah, it's looking pretty grim. So
yeah.
But he did mention the Ewoks, and I will, since he's listening, I believe right now.
Yeah, he's in the chat room.
I'm just going to let him know that I will reference Star Wars, even if the Ewoks are already mentioned. So
you don't need him to call in a Star Wars reference of the week?
No. Well, never mind. He was saying that the show already has that reference.
I got you. I got you.
Right.
I wasn't sure where you were going with that. Not that you were trying to be mean or ugly, which I made it sound. Because
yes, you did.
You are mean and ugly, especially ugly. He also talked about, how are the kids being able to survive on their own?
Right.
And I will say that if you read the footnotes for this episode, there is a mention in there that Peter was, had taught them, because Peter was the oldest, and he taught them how to hunt and eat squirrels and stuff like that. So there is at least some reference that they have some basic survival skills that they can hunt, even though they don't look like they're old. They do have some sort of hunting skills that they have been taught. So, but that's definitely worth pointing out for sure.
Yeah. So, and he talks about Miles saying it's impossible to storm the boat, and then storms the boat, and I'd say the odds are probably about 3,720 to 1. So, not quite impossible.
Aren't those the same odds that you could navigate an asteroid field
successfully? Yeah, they might be.
Just happen to know that.
You'll have to check that.
We might have been talking about that before the podcast.
We might not have been talking about it before the podcast.
All right, I found the Twitter follower that I was referring to.
Okay.
His Twitter name is Totally Not Aaron. Totally Not Aaron. He's hilarious. If you're a listener of the podcast, write in and let us know. I'm going to read you just the tweets he's had in the last 24 hours since the show wrapped up.
Okay.
He's got, okay, so kids still creep me out, but if you go Captain Hook on my Lost Boys, Peter Pan gonna have to slap you. Couldn't tell Miles the truth that the lights will only come on again when children believe in fairies. Monroe has announced that his opponent for this year's election looks like a very expired pudding cup. This isn't going to end well. If Monroe ran against Neville, I'd totally vote for Neville. He's so much more of a BA. Wait, what am I saying? Focus, Aaron. Bad guy. I love that one. I know it probably has yellow dye number 6 and botulism or something, but I'm thinking about voting for the pudding, you guys. Let's see. Still being followed by those creepy feral children. Scoot, kids, back to the Lord of the Flies. I just think this guy's hilarious. Charlie asked how the pendant works. Told her you have to put it on, spin around, clap your hands, and believe. She's been at it for an hour.
That's good.
Last one. Pudding won. Woohoo! And then he uses the hashtag SnackPack2027. And then he says, what? Oh, crud. Here comes Monroe with a spoon. So there's so much more of that. If you like that style of humor, which I do, this is Totally Not Aaron on Twitter. So that's our rabbit trail feedback for the podcast. All right. You ready to read some, Jeremy?
Yeah.
I almost called you Clint. I'm sorry?
Would you like me to take the first one?
If you want to take the first one, I'll take the next two.
Okay.
All right.
I'm going to honor, I'm not sure who put this to us, but I will honor them because they said, hey, Jeremy and Daryl, thank you for putting me first. And thank you, Mark, as well in your audio feedback. Anywho, says, I have to admit, I wasn't sure I was going to enjoy the episode this week, but the writers came through for me yet again. While the plot for Team Miles wasn't the greatest, they more than made up for it with the flashbacks. I think Revolution has nailed the pace issue that doomed other shows like The Event, Alcatraz, and Flash Forward. We're getting answers now, and won't have to hope for the show to last 6 years, or 5 if your name is Clint, to get them all at once in the end. I only hope they can make it last and that this show isn't a 1 or 2 season wonder. We had good character development again, this time with Aaron doing most of the growing. He took out the 2 guards in the lighthouse and even stood up to Miles when he wanted to smash the pendant. Also, the whole team now knows that Aaron has the pendant and what it's capable of. And let's not forget about Charlie. She went through a lot this week to help poor Peter. During the fight scene on the ship's deck, she runs that guy through without thinking. The look she shares with Miles was quick, but I think it shows that they both know she's ready to do what it takes against the militia. By the time they get to Philly, I think the whole team will have the skills to contribute to rescuing Danny and Rachel. And I expect Jason to join the team before the hiatus. I also think they may use Charlie's new brand and uniform to good use as a way to infiltrate some militia locations as they travel. Rachel tried to help Danny settle into his new surroundings, but he's not buying in just yet. I'm trying to figure out where exactly her loyalties lie, but I think she's still a good person. Though she does have an interesting track record of doing whatever is necessary to save her kids, it's obvious that she goes along with the DoD's plans for funding in order to save Danny, just like she's helping out Bass. We finally got to meet Randall this week. The DoD probably wanted to weaponize the Free Energy Project, and I'm guessing that the science team tried to back out. They're the ones that triggered the blackout because it was better than the alternative. We're still waiting to see what the alternative was, but I'm sure Randall was part of it. We know there are 12 pendants and that Randall has at least one. I wonder if he has Brad's, and if that poor scientist and his daughter will be in trouble if Monroe's men don't find it. The other thing I'm wondering about Randall is who is he working for? The government, the rebels, or a different territory? I can't believe he's acting alone, and I can't wait for that reveal. As for the hiatus, I wanted to suggest to the rest of the revolutionaries to check out Fringe when it gets reborn on the Science Channel on November 20th. I think it would be a great way for Revolution to return and give those who haven't seen it something else to watch each week. I'd also suggest going back and listening to all the original podcasts along with it. It'll give some folks a chance to listen to how Golden Spiral got started, from CBG to Going Noodlin'. They'll be able to catch all the greatest inside humor that we've come to know and love. From the corner of Shut Up and Stay Here, Jim in Wisconsin.
All right.
Thank you, Jim.
Jim's obviously been a long time listener of before Golden Spiral Media, when we were just the Fringe podcast. If he knows the going noodling joke, that was something we threw out there in season 1. Because we're from Oklahoma, and it was like the thing was that people tend to only think the things that are popular in Oklahoma are tornadoes and trailer houses and going noodling, which is fishing with your hands. So if he knows those jokes, he's been listening for a while. So thanks for listening.
Yeah.
And also, obviously, he's the one that gave me the idea to mention the Fringe thing that I did in the last podcast. So I thought that was a good idea. Thanks also for that. So what do you think about some of the comments that he threw out there?
Well, he had a lot to say, and I'm trying to find a couple of the ones that I liked best. He did mention about the weaponizing the Free Energy Project, and that they triggered the blackout because it was better than the alternative. And we've already kind of discussed, I guess, that we would disagree with that in its essence. So
yeah, I mean, it's just hard for me to think that this was better than the alternative, given the amount of devastation and loss of life that would have taken place after the blackout. So I think we will get that answered at some point, and then we'll be able to make a better determination on if this was the better alternative, or if they just didn't see that this type of devastation would be the impact of turning the power off or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He also talked about the pacing of the show. We've talked about this a lot, week in, week out. We're just continuing to get answers and new things revealed. And I love the pacing. I think that it's good to keep people coming back and not thinking that they're just getting strung along. The challenge will be, is there depth of story to go behind all these things being answered? And so far, it seems like there is.
Yeah, I agree. They're introducing questions as old ones are getting answered. So,
yeah.
It's been pretty good. He also mentioned just Rachel tried to help Danny settle into his new surroundings. And he's just kind of reluctant on that. And it kind of just brought to my mind what Danny means to Rachel. And we've not mentioned this, and I've not really thought of it, but we found out in this episode she almost lost him.
Right.
And maybe she holds a special connection with him that I've been overlooking a bit. Maybe there's a reason that she's so adamant to save Danny. Maybe that's why she was really upset when Monroe told her that he captured him.
Yeah.
So I kind of find it interesting that we're kind of seeing she may have done a lot to sacrifice, or she may have sacrificed a lot rather, to save Danny. So maybe she's willing to sacrifice more. So
sure, I think that's a good point. And I wish we had mentioned that now that you bring it up, because it was a good piece of the backstory to learn.
Yeah.
That extra depth of I was going to say of love. I mean, it's not that you love your children any different, but you've had a different experience where Danny's like a miracle child to begin with, that he even was able to survive being born. I mean, it was obviously because of the treatment that she was able to get because of Mr. Flynn. But so there's a really cool little, because he's got the asthma, so I'm led to believe that he did survive the birth, but the asthma was kind of because the doctor said his lungs wouldn't develop, so his lungs did develop, but he still had asthma. But small price to pay to have the baby being born and born healthy otherwise. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. So,
yeah. He also mentioned that Charlie was able to kill that guy on the ship and really not think much of it. And I think that was a good point too. Charlie's continuing to grow up to the place that she needs to be, to accomplish what she needs to do.
She's coming into more of that fighting kind of a woman. She's seeing what's at stake. So, which also kind of plays into helping Peter get rescued. So, he asks about Randall, who he's working for. He also wants to know. I think that's a question a lot of us are asking now too.
Yeah.
So,
meanwhile, the chat room is continuing to read the Twitter profile of the Totally Not Aaron and posting them into the chat room. They're having a great time with that. Hopefully you guys are listening to this are enjoying that as well. All right, I'm going to read a couple of emails here. This first one comes in from Princess. That's Jeremy's alter ego, I think.
No.
All right. Hi, Jeremy and Daryl. Did you switch that?
No, I did not, but I'm really happy now. Thank you, Princess.
I get no love. That's all right. Really quick, I just wanted to know if anyone picked up on the Earth missing behind the opening title of the Children's Crusade episode. I thought I was seeing things until I rewound to make sure, and sure enough, I'm not going crazy. I'm wondering if it's not a way for the creators to be saying, quote, we'll be focusing on the cause and potential solution for the power outage for a while instead of explaining how the world is faring since the lights went out. I know that's a lot to read and a title sequence change, but it is there nonetheless. Thanks for an entertaining podcast and amazing insight that I know I wouldn't actually mull over if this podcast never existed. From the corner of Shut Up and Stay Here, Princess. So she's got Jim's sign off as well there.
All right.
I didn't notice that, and I went back and I looked at it again, and I didn't notice anything out of the ordinary.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what part of the intro she's talking about. I'd like some clarification. We always see in the intro when the lights are kind of going off in sequence around the Earth, that the Earth kind of fades to black, and you see the one light that stays on that we've theorized is Hawaii.
Right.
So I'm not sure if that's what she's talking about, if there's another part. Did you notice anything different or unusual about the intro?
I did not. But it's kind of intriguing. I'm going to have to go rewatch it. I didn't pay attention to the intro enough to really notice whether anything was missing or not.
Okay. All right. Well, write us back in and give us Maybe I'm just missing it. I'm not sure exactly. Okay, this one comes in from Andrew in Montreal.
Right.
Andrew says, "Hi, D and J." I like that's my name first.
Agent J. I don't see your name there.
Whatever. So sorry, but this was last week's method retooled. You send in the girl, she F's up, Miles rescues, the geek saves everyone. The promo promised more than it delivered. I watched Kripke's Supernatural, and its best part is the wisecracks that use pop culture references, but I found the story is often weak. Only the use of good character actors save the episodes or the season. And that comes in from Andrew from Montreal. And we've talked a little bit about our coworker that thought it was formulaic as well, and I think Jim even mentioned that, or was it Mark? I think it was Mark. We'll see. We'll see if that continues to be the trend or not. I wish it would have been a little bit, in those terms, when you put it in those terms, I wish it wouldn't have been back-to-back when they did it that way, because it is very, very similar.
Yeah. All right, well.
But thanks for sending in your opinion on that, Andrew, and look forward to hearing from you some more. All right, let's get back to the audio feedback. And this one comes in from Owen in Ireland.
Hi, my name is Owen from Dublin, Ireland. This is sending in feedback for the Revolution podcast. This is my fourth try at trying to record this message. Keep getting interrupted by animals. Mainly my dog and my cat. Okay, you may know me as @WeezerEra from Twitter, and you guys tend to pronounce it as Weezer-Ria. So it's actually Weezer-Era. Anyway, long time listener of the Fringe podcast, and I recently got into Revolution only because of what you guys have been promoting, and really enjoy your podcast. So I just want to say thanks to everyone on the team there, yourself, Jeremy, Clint as well, and Daryl. So just made a few notes on this week's episode, the episode with the children. Didn't really particularly enjoy it. If I was to give it a rating, or a pendant rating, I'd give it a 3 out of 12. Maybe up a few points on the last section, because the twist at the end with Randall, I really enjoyed that. So a few notes I made on this. I really enjoyed Charlie getting punched again. I don't know what that says about me, but that's the second time she's been punched, and once in the last 2 episodes by someone. A good thing was Aaron. I noticed that Aaron's flask was untouched from the bullet shot that it took last week. He's still drinking out of it. I must get me one of those hip flasks. They tend to go good quality, last quite a while. So I noticed that I think your hypothesis on what the pendants do has been proven this week, in that they seem to create a field to allow electricity run. So yeah, I think you guys have got that one on the mark. Finally, Aaron has really stepped up to the mark as well this week, in that he actually hit 2 people. So that was really good. Aaron's character is really moving on, and I really quite like it. Another note I have here, I don't know how I can take that Elizabeth Mitchell's character, that she actually sold her tech for the life of an unborn baby. Now, I don't know how people take that, but I don't know how that's going to play down later on in a couple of episodes, maybe. I'm not sure how to take it. The one a really noticeable thing for me in this episode was that the lighthouse actually lit up, which is usually able to be seen for miles. Yet no one turned up the next morning to see what the crack was. What's the story there? You would have thought that there would be hundreds of people going down there saying, why is the lights on? How did they turn on? No one there. No one was in a rush. Okay. So yeah, in essence, I think, it was an okay episode. It got good towards the end when we saw Grace and all that. But crikey, Charlie is really annoying me. So she just bugs the hell out of me. I think if she was gone, the show might be a little bit better. Sorry, but that's how I feel. Okay, so that's all from my feedback. Just your friendly potato-eating leprechaun calling from Dublin, Ireland. And thanks again, guys. Great show. Cheers. Bye.
So there you have it. So that what I said in the last podcast was just a little tease, because I knew we had that coming.
All right.
I knew we had already heard from a potato-eating leprechaun from Ireland.
Well, thank you for calling Owen. So, I'd like to know what kind of dog you have, just for the heck of it.
An Irish setter, probably.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I have an Australian Shepherd, and I'm in the United States, so
what?
I don't think that matters.
Okay, probably it doesn't.
Yeah. Anywho,
lots of good stuff there.
Yeah. His rating gave it a 3 of 12 pendant rating. I'm assuming he means there are 12 pendants, so he gave it 3 of 12 pendants.
That's
so,
what yeah. Mm-hmm.
I kind of like what he did there.
I like that too. It's a low rating, 3 of 12. I mean, even 3 of 10 would be a bad rating. You know, out of 12 would be even lower a percentage. So, but that's that's fine. I mean, he talked about how Charlie annoys him, and it was he liked to see that she got punched in the face. It's funny. Poor Tracy Spiridakos. I mean, the most positive thing that a lot of people have said all season about her is, I loved it, Tracy, when you got punched in the face.
That's true.
Not that it's her. I mean, it might be her, or it might be just the way that she's been instructed to play the character. I mean, I don't know that we know at this point whether that's something that she's doing to the character or that she's been instructed to do to the character. What we do know is that a lot of people are finding the character annoying.
Yeah. I'm going to defend her, though.
Oh, I am too. I said last time, she doesn't annoy me the way that she has other people.
He pointed out Aaron's flask was okay.
Yeah. So. I'm glad he mentioned that. I noticed he was drinking out of the flask, but I didn't. Someone in the chat room said it's a different flask.
Oh, did they?
But I don't.
Interesting. Maybe he found it.
What kind of raging alcoholic does he have like a whole backpack full of flasks he's carrying around?
Well, I'm glad I didn't necessarily hypothesize that his flask being damaged would represent his movement away from his apparent alcoholism.
Oh.
Apparently I was wrong, so...
he's got to run out of alcohol at some point.
I don't know where he's getting the alcohol, and I don't know where he's getting the flasks, but I'm pretty sure it's probably where he's getting the AC/DC shirts. So.
he's got a backpack full of them.
Everything.
Yeah. Did you see the tweet from Totally Not Aaron that they posted in the chat room about the AC/DC song?
Yes. Yeah.
That was pretty good. There's one about Miles and an AC/DC song that's pretty good.
That was good.
Let's see. Back to Owen here. Just to mention that speaking of the chat room, they were swooning over your accent, Owen. It's like they love accents that aren't Oklahoma accents.
We've got good Hickish accents, and nobody compliments us.
I could turn it on a little bit more if you'd like. I mean, we could talk like a hick if we want to.
Y'all. Except for I use y'all in everyday.
I do too.
Speech. So.
I say reckon a lot, and I don't say it to sound like a hick. I think it's a fun word that we ought to bring back across the board.
I reckon that's correct.
So I use it, and it drives my wife nuts. And she's like, "Are you coming to dinner?" I'm like, "Yeah, I reckon." And I just think it's a good word.
All right.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks, Owen, for calling in. Let's move on to Travis in Florida.
Hello, Daryl and Jeremy. This is Travis in Florida. I'm a little behind because I don't have cable anymore. I've just got the cutting the cable solution with Hulu. Just wanted to give my thoughts on last week's Revolution after having listened to the feedback podcast. First, Kristen in New York was mentioning how J.J. Abrams has a lot of numbers, especially the number 12 in a lot of his shows. And as a Christian, I do some studying on the Jewish traditions, and I'm not sure if Clinton Daryl or Daryl and Jeremy had talked about this at all before, but the 12 tribes of Israel is a very big thing with the Jewish community. Kind of cool thing, maybe. I don't know. I hope I'm not going over old ground there. And then people were saying Tom didn't seem like he really wanted his promotion, but to me it seemed like he was trying really darn hard not to smile. If you go back and look at Giancarlo Esposito's face, I think you can really see it. The lips are just like struggling so hard not to smile, and that was just my thought on it. And then a lot of people were complaining about the guards not shooting Aaron after killing their boss. And this is the thing I wanted to put out there, because I thought the same thing for like a split second. And you think about it more, it makes complete sense. First of all, let's put yourself in the mind of these guards. So first off, you're a coward because you're letting this crazy psychopath run your life. And you just see the Pillsbury Doughboy shoot himself in the heart and then get up and shoot your boss. I'm sorry, but after I've wet my pants, I would probably shake the guy's hand and say, "You do whatever you want, sir, and you have a good day." Anyway, those were my thoughts on the show. Can't wait for the next episode. I never get to see the trailers for the next show, and I think I'm kind of liking that. It's pretty cool not knowing what's going to happen, but it's a really great show. I'm loving it more and more. I'm glad I'm on this ride. I'm glad you guys are helping enjoy it even more. I've never done much in the way of sign-off, so I thought I'd try Vive la Revolution. Have a good one, guys.
Nice. That's what you say to me every Monday.
It's my Monday chant.
Yeah, but you didn't tell me yesterday.
I guess I was just so focused on Halo 4. It's a likely excuse.
Yeah, you probably were, actually. So good feedback there from Travis. I don't know where to start there. He talked about the number 12. I don't remember if we brought in the biblical portions or tie-ins of that number, or significance of that number in our conversation.
Well, I brought it up like briefly.
Okay.
At the towards the very beginning when we found out there were 12. It's a
that's
number
right.
that
I do remember that now.
is commonly used in the Bible. So I think that it's good to have somebody else point that out and kind of bring that back up, because the number keeps getting brought up, and we do have viewers and listeners who are bringing that up to us as well. So he mentions the cowardice of the guards.
Yeah.
So
I'm with him.
Yeah.
So like we mentioned in the podcast too, it's like I can see why somebody might have stood up and said, "Oh, you just killed our guy, death to you." But at the same time, when you got a leader like that probably people despise and hate so much because just the way that he was a scumbag.
Yeah.
I don't, and we also talked about maybe Monroe might find the same fate when he finally meets his end. It might be Ding Dong, the witch is dead, dancing and prancing for all.
In the Emerald City.
That's right.
All right.
Is that a Wizard of Oz thing I just did there?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. That was close.
Yeah.
I had one other thing that I wrote down, and that was his opinion on Tom. And we mentioned in the last, I think we called it wrong last week. You can speak for yourself. But he mentioned that he thought that Tom was trying to fight back a smile last week when he was given the promotion. And based on what we saw this week, I think Travis is right.
Yeah.
I think I got it wrong.
Yeah. Well, I thought that he enjoyed it a bit more than he may have let on, but I think Travis definitely has it correct this week. So.
Yeah. And we know it could still be proven wrong. We had the theory that Mark threw out there earlier. I think it was Mark. That was Mark that talked about how Tom might be actually a spy working for either the DOD or for one of the other federations. So we'll see. We'll find out as time goes on.
Indeed.
All right, one more to listen to tonight. This comes in from someone who didn't leave a name, so it's the unknown caller.
All right.
Hello, first-time caller. I've listened to Fringe podcast for a long time, and I've never written or called in before, but watching another episode in which it was difficult to watch Charlie just made me want to call in or write in somewhere. And thinking about it, though, before I made the call, it may be that I'm being unfair to the Charlie character, because I do watch Fringe, and I love Fringe, and watching the Charlie character as opposed to the Etta character is just painful, especially since the situations are similar. Not in, factual things, but, Earth is in danger, parents missing or dead, and the portrayal of the two characters is just so much different. The Etta character is just so much better than the Charlie character, and it, even down to the facial expressions, the Charlie character just seems so pained, and I don't know. But like I said, it could be the writing as well. And that may be the issue with a lot of the Charlie hate that's out there, is probably most of the people that are watching Revolution also watch Fringe, and like I said, when we watch the Charlie characters opposed to the Etta character, it's just painful. So maybe I should try to give her a break, but it's awfully hard.
All right. I'll respond to that since we did the Fringe podcast and the Revolution podcast, and because we've seen a lot of criticism like this where people are stacking Etta up against Charlie, and to some extent, it's a good comparison. They're both young women in their early 20s who have been thrust into a situation in this kind of dystopian society where they're trying to lead Well, and really, Charlie's not trying to lead a resistance where Etta is. Both of them had lost their parents and stuff. There are a lot of similarities that can be found if you're looking for them. And I'm not going to say that what we're seeing with Revolution and Charlie is as good as what we're seeing on Fringe with Etta. I don't think it is. I like the Etta character much more than I do the Charlie character. But I also think that part of that is because of the backstory that we have with Etta via her parents. With Etta, we know who her parents are. She's the child that we hoped for years, and the relationship that we saw building between Peter and Olivia. So when Etta came about, spoiler here, if you're not up on Fringe, I know Jeremy's not all the way up on Fringe yet. Sorry,
caught up now.
When Etta finally comes into the story, the fans instantly had a love for the Etta character because, like I said, it was what we had been hoping for a couple of seasons. And so because of that, that love that we had for her parents translated to her. With Charlie, it's a brand new character with no backstory. Then we're just getting to know these characters. We haven't had 5 seasons to build love for her parents and then inject that love into her character.
Right.
So I think there's a very distinct difference between the two. But of course, as I said, the Etta character is a stronger character than the Charlie character, and that may just have to do with the writing. It may have to do with the acting. I don't know, but that's just kind of my take on the thing for sure. There's definitely a difference between the two characters. Most people are liking the Etta character, but above the Charlie character. But I think there's a legit reason why, and that's the investment we have in Etta's parents. So that's my 2 cents.
I like your 2 cents.
Sorry to spoil you a little bit on Fringe. Well, I didn't spoil you too much. I didn't tell you that Peter got mad at Etta and sent her to her room, and she got teleported to a different dimension.
Yeah. Sounds a bit like a certain John Connor.
What?
What?
I'll be back. All right. Thank you so much for everyone who sent in feedback for this week's podcast. If you want to send in feedback, you can call us on the Golden Spiral Media voice feedback line at 304-837-2278. You can also email us feedback or attach an audio file to an email over at feedback@goldenspiralmedia.com. And you can also go over to our website, goldenspiralmedia.com, and click on the Send Voicemail tab that's hanging out on the right-hand side of the page. That'll bring up the SpeakPipe app, and you can record directly into the app. There is a way to listen to your recording before you hit that send button. We do encourage you to do that just to make sure the recording is, understandable.
Right.
Okay. All right, let's get into our Twitter poll for the week. I've got it pulled up this week. Look at me learning from my previous 50 mistakes. I finally got it through my head. All right. The question this week was, will Danny be content being with Rachel, or will he defy her and rebel? He was upset that they were just sitting there, and she's like, shh, they're going to hear you.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going to happen with that dynamic? Zoe Blue says, he doesn't seem to be a hothead. He's a smart guy. I hope he'll combine smarts with his mom to rebel. Brains is greater than brawn. Tess315 says, he doesn't seem very happy with his mom's decisions. He'll probably rebel and try to take mom with him. Alternicat says, Danny and Rachel will escape just before the rescue team gets there. Charlie will instead be captured and become the new leverage. Ooh, I like that. That's kind of interesting. Revolution Sci-Fi says Danny and Rachel will escape. That's the same tweet I just read from Alternicat. Okay.
Interesting.
Because I'm stupid and didn't see that right before that said retweet Alternicat.
Very good.
Nice. That was smooth. E. Gately says Danny has to rebel just like any normal teen. He doesn't have Daddy to rebel against anymore. And that's also from My Name is Earl. That's his Twitter or the chat room name. Daymay 2466 says Rachel still has a few tricks up her sleeve, and now that Danny is with her, will be more inclined to try and escape. Rev Fan Podcast says there may be a failed escape attempt, but I think Danny will be there when Miles and Charlie arrive in Philly. Zeppelin Driver says Rachel will see Danny's argument and escape now that her collaboration has gone horribly wrong. No One's Minion says Danny is going to rebel, but Rachel won't be sitting quietly either. After this week, I see her changing her stance. And the final one comes in from Android Omega. And Android says Danny will attempt escape. He will be caught, but he will attempt it. So those are the opinions we have. You know, I like the one where it said that he would escape, but Charlie would be captured.
That's my favorite too.
Yeah.
So it might be a fan favorite.
It might be. You know, I'm very intrigued by Graham Rogers. I think he's doing a great job with Danny. I want to see more Danny. I want to see him out of captivity.
Yeah.
Which we haven't got to see yet. So I'd be in favor. Not necessarily in Charlie getting captured, but in
right.
Danny being free and being able to do get out there and fight and do some things, you know, like his sister's been able to do.
Yeah.
Yep. All righty. Well, that's going to wrap it up for our Twitter feedback as well. I gave our contact information. We want to remind you guys that we record our show live every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You can join us for the live show over at goldenspiralmedia.com/live. We have a chat room where we can interact with you, and we have the webcam on so you can watch us as we record the show live. The feedback podcast and the episode review are both recorded on Tuesday night starting at 8. We release the review podcast Tuesday night late, around midnight or so, and then the feedback podcast goes into the feed Thursday night, Friday morning, so it's available for you there. All right. Also, one more thing. We have until November 15th to go and vote for the Fringe podcast, which is another podcast that we produce here at Golden Spiral Media, and vote for that in the podcast awards over at podcastawards.com. Please vote for the Fringe podcast in the best produced and the entertainment category, and they will send you an email to verify your vote with a quick link in that email to click on and verify your vote. We certainly appreciate your votes very much. Jeremy, anything else?
I'm good to go.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us for this week's feedback episode, and until next time, don't forget, you can always go home, but you're going to pay for it.
And that feeling is so mutual.
The Revolution Podcast and Golden Spiral Media are not associated with Bad Robot Productions, Kripke Enterprises, Warner Brothers, or NBC. Golden Spiral Media's use of any and all copyrighted material is only for parody, news analysis, critique, or educational purposes as provided within United States Code Title 17, aka Fair Use. For advertising opportunities, live show, and other Golden Spiral Media podcast productions, visit goldenspiralmedia.com. Copyright 2012, Golden Spiral Media. We have some exciting news to share. Daryl has been selected to speak at New Media Expo, formerly Blog World, taking place in Las Vegas on January 6th through the 8th, 2013. New Media Expo is the world's largest and only industry-wide conference, trade show, and media event for bloggers, podcasters, social media networkers, online communities, internet radio and TV broadcasters, and every type of new media user and content creator. This is where independent content creators, journalists, marketers, internet entrepreneurs, and the world's largest corporations learn about the newest online communication technology, tools, and methods from innovators and industry leaders. past events have offered more than 100 educational sessions with amazing speakers, including Guy Kawasaki, Mark Cuban, Steve Rebell, Gary Vanderchuck, Tim Ferriss, Chris Brogan, Paula Berg, and dozens of A-list bloggers and podcasters, award-winning journalists, Fortune 500 executives, and world-renowned online marketers. There is a wide selection of topics, ranging from building an audience and community, basic and advanced blogging and podcasting, audio and video tools and techniques, web TV and internet radio broadcasting, monetizing content, social media marketing, how to effectively engage bloggers, and maximizing new media in your business marketing mix. I will be leading a session on tips for fan podcasters, joined by Lost podcasters Jay and Jack Glatfelter and Jason Kabasi from the Walking Dead cast. We will discuss how to choose the right show, how to build a community around your podcast, how to promote your podcast, how to build a relationship with a TV network, and how to properly conduct interviews. Check out all the amazing content offered at New Media Expo and book your ticket today by visiting goldenspiralmedia.com/New Media Expo. I can't wait to see you in Las Vegas, January 6th through the 8th.